Breaking this morning on the U.S. war with Iran. The U.S. military says it has got 2 American flagships through the Strait of Hormuz. That appears to be a first. The announcement from U.S. Central Command uses just the facts language. It almost downplays it. The revelation could offer insight into CENTCOM's move. The U.S. military rejecting an Iranian claim that it had hit a U.S. warship with missiles and forced it to retreat. CENTCOM only denied that a warship was hit. It did not deny that it was in the strait. Now, this is all happening the morning after the U.S. president announced the military would be taking new action in the strait. Is promising that U.S. warships and aircraft will help guide ships through that critical waterway. Those forces are also blockading Iranian ports. The Pentagon says more than 40 ships have been turned back by that blockade, and 2 vessels linked to Iran have been seized. Here's the issue. There have been 2,000 ships stuck on either side of the strait, both in the Persian Gulf and out here in the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. The owners of those ships have been unwilling to take the risk of crossing. Many have been stuck there for more than 2 months. What the Americans are now doing is helping guide some of those vessels. Let's take a look at where ships ordinarily go when there's not war. It is through the international seaways, the white lines. Iran, though, has been telling ships if they want to pass, they have to go through their waters, the yellow line, and potentially pay a $2 million toll in order to do so. Iran has been attacking ships that try to go through the strait without their permission. And the latest happened right here, just off the coast of Oman last night. The United Arab Emirates says it was one of its tankers that got hit. Let's unpack what exactly the White House is doing here with our Willie Lowry, who's in our Washington bureau. Willie.
Quite frankly, scarce, but we know that U.S. President Donald Trump, in an effort to break that Iranian stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz that you just mentioned, is launching yet another military operation. Now, Trump says the move comes at the behest of several other countries and that the U.S. will, quote, guide their ships safely out of these restricted waterways so that they can freely and ably get on with their business. Trump adding that the mission was a, quote, humanitarian gesture on behalf of the United States. But it's really still unclear how exactly the U.S. will do that. In a statement, Central Command said that the U.S. military had beefed up its presence in the region and that they would support the operation with guided missile destroyers, over 100 land and sea-based aircraft, multi-domain unmanned platforms, and 15,000 service members. Iran, meanwhile, is warning that it will target foreign forces, i.e. the U.S., transiting through the waterway. There are reports that Iran struck a U.S. warship, but as you mentioned, CENTCOM has denied those Iranian claims. A spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry, meanwhile, dismissed Trump's assertion that Project Freedom was a humanitarian gesture.
Willie, I want to unpack, the question of how to get to a permanent peace deal. We've heard about nuclear material. We've heard about the Strait, both of them being key roadblocks in negotiations. Where do those negotiations? Yeah, I was just going to ask, where do they stand right now?
Well, it's hard to get a straight read on that, to be honest, David. We know that the two sides do continue to talk via Pakistan, but of course, clearly, they've been unable to bridge their differences. As you mentioned, at the moment, certainly the nuclear ambitions of Iran and the Strait of Hormuz are very much front and center with those negotiations. We know that the U.S. Rejected a recent 14-point plan proposed by Iran. Trump telling Khan News, an Israeli media outlet, yesterday that the latest proposal was simply not acceptable to him. But in his post announcing Project Freedom, he said that his representatives are, quote, having very positive discussions with Iran. A spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry, meanwhile, says the country will be reviewing America's response to their proposal. But again, clearly, much work still needs to be done, and the Strait of Hormuz remains deadlocked.
Certainly does. Although, as we've noted, breaking news this morning, the U.S. helping guide at least 2 ships through the strait, or so they say. Willie, thanks a lot.
My pleasure.